of information. I do live in a Keystone property and we haven't died yet. No, I'm just teasing. It's awesome and really like them. Um, what is clear cooperation? Because it's in the news right now. So what's going on in clear cooperation? What is it? Okay, Amber, we'll make you talk just because she's our CE instructor. What is clear cooperation and what's its purpose?
So it's the NAR rule that says if you have a listing, you can't like advertise it without putting it on the MLS within 24 hours, correct?
So if you advertise it, and there are some exceptions, what might be one exception? Say again? Well, no, active no-show it's on the MLS. One exception could be if I make it an office exclusive. So we're not going to advertise it except in this room. And so then you have that's available to you. And then, but in the big picture, what do buyers want? What does a buyer want? Say again. What does a buyer want? Buyers don't want to be exposed. Sellers may want some exposure, but what do buyers want? They want to find the right home in their budget and all that. I'm find the best property for me. I want exposure to every single property. That camera's following me. But I want to know everything that's available out there. And that's what buyers want. What do sellers want? They want exposure. Okay. And then what else? They want the best price. So rules of clear cooperation as they sit today are if you advertise broadly, you put a sign in the yard, you broadcast it on Facebook, you put it on KSL, or you put it on the MLS. Obviously, it has to be on the MLS within 24 hours after that. So you might say, hey, I just took a listing. It's really awesome. Here's a picture of the house. You better have it on the MLS in 24 hours. That's clear cooperation so that we're cooperating and broadcasting this out. So there's a twist that's coming. And has anybody heard you? Have you been paying attention? It's on they put that stuff on the MLS. There are folks out there that have PLNs or private listing networks. What is their purpose? What's the purpose of doing a private listing network? It's exclusive. You have to pay to maybe pay to play to be able to advertise on that. And I don't want to be on the MLS. And so they've been suing NAR and all of that. So to try and quell this and put this down, MLS came out with some new rules and said, okay, we're going to change it. And so I have this graphic in just a second, but here's just a couple of things. Let's say that I have I have 10,000 people that are part of my private listing network. It's kind of a competition to the MLS, which is fine. But I can be on a private listing network, but I also have to be on the MLS because I'm broadcasting it widely. What's the advantage to a seller if they go on a private listing network? Say again. The seller can be they can discriminate, meaning that's one of the dangers, I think, of it. Yeah, it's not broadly, it's not broadcast out there. I'm going to use this. Is there a place for wholesaling properties? Yeah, there is. But is that the first place that you think your seller should go to? Why or why not? Yeah. So under what situation, Susie, would I want to have a seller do that?
If they're in financial distress, the house is not everyday buyers will want it because it has too much work that needs to be done.
Yeah, it could be timing. So there's a couple of reasons for it, but should that be your first go-to when you're talking with a seller, potential seller of a home? It's one of the options. So I'm using that on purpose because there are people that are involved in wholesaling a lot. Generally, wholesalers don't buy the property, they send it out to their friends who are looking for a deal, and then they want to upcharge that. They'll tie up the property, they'll upcharge it, and then they'll sell it to one of their friends. The problem with that could be their friends might not represent what the population looks like. I'm going to pick, what about the Polynesian community? What about the Latino community? What about, what if some people they don't want to sell to white people? Would that be a problem? Yeah, I think it could be. So there's potential for it in any of these networks out there. Anyway, this I thought was fun. Bright Real Estate, or excuse me, Bright MLS. They cover the Eastern Seaboard. I think they have 105,000 agents on their MLS. They said when a seller chooses an office exclusive or pre-market listing, there's no impact on sold price. It just takes longer to sell. Now, I just ran my numbers last week. What's the average days on market in Utah County? Because that's closer to the median. Average days on market right now is 62 days for the month of March. So when do you need to move, seller? Well, I need to move next month. My job starts. Well, we need to get your house on the market today because on average, it takes 2 months. 62 days is where we're sitting right now. Now, average is more. So if we want to come down below the average, we might have to be a little bit aggressive in our pricing to get more attention, all that. Zillow was interesting. They said in the last 2 years, sellers have left more than $1 billion on the table because they were using private listing networks. They weren't selling it on the multiple listing service. It also could be they were selling by owner, or they were selling to a family friend or someone. And guess what? They don't get as much money because they talk themselves down. I've literally had sellers. I had one seller, she was telling me what she needed for her home, and she literally talked herself down out of $50,000 before we were done having the conversation. And I didn't even ask. I don't let sellers talk to buyers. I hope you don't. Anyway, so here's a quick diagram of what is being proposed by the NAR. The MLS is putting this together. This graphic came from KW. So they're talking about listing agreements, and I had to add some words in here. I added the word office on this graphic there because there are office exclusive listings, and it keeps it off. It keeps it on the MLS, but it doesn't broadcast it to my website or your websites. It's only on the multiple listing service that agents can find. It won't be on the public facing page. Because some people say for privacy reasons, I don't want it broadcast out there for everyone to know that my home is on the market. And so the MLS locally and in Washington County and in Park City, those are the 3 major MLSs in the state. Right now, they're putting together their rules. We'll find out about them later this summer. I'm just giving you a heads up on it, so you want to know about it. So this first thing KW's come up with, though, is they have an exclusive listings availability within KW. One of the complaints are that large brokerages, Keller Williams is the largest, more homes sold than any other brokerage out there. By using our exclusive listing network, it would be available to all KW agents across the country. Depending on rules, or around the world, I should say, it goes to KW International. Or we could limit it to KW brokerages only in the state of Utah. Again, is that, in my opinion, I don't think so, but is that the best for your sellers? Because what if a Berkshire agent has the best buyer for my listing? Should I exclude them? I don't think so, but that's just one guy's opinion. But here's the model. You take a listing. Does the seller want it on an office exclusive or KW exclusive listing? If yes, follow the proper channels, appropriate disclosures, and then put it on the KW exclusive listing in command. It's coming. It's not here yet. It's on its way. But if they say, nope, I don't want to be exclusive, I want to put it out as broad, do I want to delay marketing it on the MLS? Meaning, do I want it to go to Zillow? Do I want it to go to Dean's website and to Shoney's website, where it gets more eyeballs than mine? But does that make sense? There's some people will want to delay. Yes, Rob. I can't hear you. In Utah, it's KW. Okay, but do we
Facts.
want to exclude it? So if I were Keystone Construction, would I want to limit buyers to only KW? The answer is no, because they would want to open up to everybody. And I believe the same thing, because I want more eyeballs. I think if I have a broader net, I'm going to catch more fish that will be looking at my listing. That's just one guy's opinion. But there's a process. So if they don't want to do just KW only, but they want to delay it, then there's a process to do it. And that's right now is what is being worked on with the MLS. I'm giving you that heads up just because it's coming, it's confusing, or it can be. When it's listed, delayed going on the MLS, if we're going down this path here, it'll be available to every agent, will be able to see it, will be able to show it. Unlike active no-show, you can't show the property. But this would be delayed. Agents can see it, agents can put it in front of their buyers and show that property, offer and sell that property. What this looks like in my mind is an antitrust case waiting to happen. Because we're going to say, oh, we're going to collude that it'll only be realtors will see this. And we may not have the broadest net, casting the widest net out there. And I think that's going to be a problem. What it really is for is there are agents on a private listing network or on delayed things. They're trying to double-side a deal. Guess what? Your broker's horse is patoot. He won't let you double-side a deal. So I think you should cast the broadest, widest net you can. Anyway, that's all I have. We can talk about this later, but I wanted to show you this because it's coming and it's going to be part of the jargon that's coming out. But I think there's going to be some problems with it. And I'll let it go from there because I'd much rather hear from Kammon.
Honestly, Kammon doesn't need an introduction, but the 6 personal perspectives are highly impactful, and I'm excited to hear Kammon's story as we go through this. But Kammon is one of our ALC members and has a fun story. I'm sure he'll give a little bit about his background before real estate, but Kammon, we'll pass the time over to you. Give him a hand. There we go.
I'm going to test. Does this one work okay? If not, I'll use that handheld mic, but I'd
Yeah, and
rather.
I'll turn it up a little bit for you.
Thank you. Cool. I've got some really cool and valuable stuff to share today. I was actually excited when I got asked to present on this because this is something that I care a lot about. It's something I've been learning a ton about. You got a clicker for the slides? That's it. Thank you. Okay. Cool. So we talk a lot about the 6 personal perspectives here at KW, and today I get to touch on number 4, making learning-based be the foundation for your action plan. A learning-based individual is an individual who has made the decision to use effective learning as their foundation piece for their action plan to develop their life. And the reason we define it and say effective learning, it's not just learning, we're learning all the time. As humans, our brain is always working and it's being programmed. So we've got to intentionally program it to go exactly where we want to go. If we want to live an intentional lifestyle and be deliberate with our actions, we're always learning. So we've got to be intentional and be effective with it. I'm not sure how to play this on this. I got to click on it. Thanks. Turn the volume up. Yep. There it goes. All right.
Important and benefit of reading. I I will stand before you and speak with confidence and not be afraid. Reading every day has made me smarter. Reading has also strengthened my vocabulary and language skills, allowing me to pronounce new and big words without even thinking about it. Reading has incredibly enriched my long-term memory. Thank you.
Am I back on? Awesome. Sorry, I'm going to set up a scenario. Most of you know I used to be with Highway Patrol, right? I used to be a cop. Has anybody in here ever been a cop? Anybody ever wanted to be a cop? Okay, can you two come up? All right. No, you're not. You're going to stand over here. So you're going to have to use your imagination. I'm not going to have them do it. But picture a call out for a police officer, and you're called out, and all you get on the information is there's a fight in progress. You've got to respond. You've got to resolve the situation. One person's laying here on the ground with their head facing that way. You don't have to lay there, but I'll have you stand here as the two that are fighting. And then the other person is on top, just over the other person, hands down. And the officer that's coming, so this was an actual training at post, the police officer academy. So as you're coming up, you can't see because the car is directly in front of them. And as you walk up, you know there's a fight in progress. We're all wearing masks, by the way, because we have these, these fake bullets, but they have gunpowder and they shoot out and they hurt. So we still have our weapon and we're walking up and we've got to figure out the situation. So I wouldn't be able to see them, picture them laying down. I'm walking up and I see these two laying down. They're struggling. Show me you're struggling. You're fighting. You do hear all these sounds, right? And you hear them, and you hear them screaming, and that lifts up, that really starts to get your emotions high. And what happens when your emotions get really, really high? You're back on there. I'll come back to this. What happens is when your emotions get really high, you get in this fight or flight mode. All the adrenaline rushes to your brain and your blood pumps out of your body. It stops digesting. That's not necessary anymore. It pumps into your arms, moves out of your head so you're not thinking quite as clearly, moves into your extremities so that you can fight or flight, so that your muscles are faster twitch and you can do whatever you need to do. So cops have to train on this all the time. So as you're coming up, and it was neat to participate in it. And then, thank you. You guys can go sit down. I know it wasn't a big demonstration. I wasn't going to have you jump in. So the cop's walking on this side, and you see a knife. One of them has a knife, and it's the person on the bottom. And the person on top, they don't tell you before the training, is an undercover officer. He's got a badge on his neck. It's dangling. It's hanging out. And he's holding this person down from stabbing him with a knife. He's trying to protect himself. And we have officers. Oh, by the way, the car is a police car. It's just unmarked. You don't see the lights because it's during the day. But if you're aware of what's going on, you can see them out of your peripheral. But what happens when you experience this fight or flight mode, your peripheral is kind of gone. You get hyper focused and you can only see what's ahead. The sounds of panic and attack. So as they're coming forward, I got to sit back and watch. And we'd see different officers react really differently. Some of them would try to get involved, and they have this fake knife. It retracts, but it also shocks you. So you can feel if you're in the wrong place or handle this incorrectly. So we saw officers shoot the officer. We saw officers just stand still and freeze and not understand how to react. And we saw officers do the right thing and get in and help and take the knife away from the guy and disarm him. So the point is, I want you to understand, and I'm going to come right back to this slide and go back to the other one now. And I want you to know where all this comes from. Dr. Craig Manning is he's a mental performance coach. And a little bit about Dr. Manning, all this information comes from him, by the way, way better than what I could have come up with on my own. He has been a mental performance coach in 2015-16 for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They won the NBA championship that year. Later on, the Milwaukee Bucks thought, dang, we're paying Giannis $250 million. We need to win. We want to hire this guy. So 2020-21, he coached the Milwaukee, was a mental performance coach for the Milwaukee Bucks. Guess what? They won the NBA championship. He's coached gold medalists. He's coached, he was a professional tennis player. So he understands how the mind plays into our learning and how we can overcome fear with that learning. So when I listened to him, and by the way, the picture was taken over at Edge. They had him come and present to hundreds of people. They invited agents and had their own agents there. Such a cool experience. I heard what he presented last year and was so excited to see him live that I pushed my way to the front and we sat right in front and I made sure to get a picture with him at the end. It's had a huge impact on me. So one of the things he wants you to know is the science behind your prefrontal cortex. That houses your thoughts and your emotions. And there are two parts to that. One is the amygdala, and that houses all the negative thoughts, the negative feelings, the reactive state, fear. And the other part is the hippocampus. That's where learning is. That's where proactiveness is. That's where you get to your flow state. So he explains that when we get into that state of fear, the only way to overcome it is by learning. Have any of you guys ever experienced what I try to depict this up here with this situation where your heart gets pumping, you're trying to figure out. They used to tell us in the police academy, breathe. And I think, why do you keep saying that? I'm breathing. Like I don't have to think about breathing, but it was controlled breathing. Like really take a deep breath in. Have you ever had that happen when you presented to a client, maybe didn't do so well in the presentation, your palms start to get cold and sweaty, you think, oh my gosh, I haven't maybe role played enough? Have you had it negotiating with another agent who maybe was aggressive? Yeah, we've all kind of experienced that. So that is the opposite of what we want to do as agents or how we want to deal in our relationships. If you ever experience that fear, the number one way Dr. Manning said to overcome it is by learning. Learning can dispel all fear because now you're looking at things as just something to understand, to learn, to resolve. So if we can be solution-based in our thinking and not focus on the problem, focusing on the problem, by the way, creates the fear. And he said that as we focus and think more about the fear, then that triggers that fight or flight response, which then also, and fight equals anger and flight equals anxiety. And they both are not good for our brains. Have you ever met someone that was just ornery? Truly, do you know somebody, maybe a neighbor, maybe a family member, but they're ornery. And sometimes they're old people. He explains, what's that? You're one of the nicest people I know, Dean. So it actually explains this. They use an fMRI, and it's a scan that you can see actual heat waves in the brain, and they can see gray brain matter. For people that are always in a response or reactive mode, life is just happening to them. They live in fear, and they're reactive, and they have more gray brain matter. It's actually proven now scientifically. They can see that in the scans. These people, if you want to be ornery when you get older, mad at the world, put your fence up and not socialize, that's why that happens. They have more brain matter than most. They haven't been taught that they need to continually be learning based. My mom right now is losing her memory, and he kind of explains that memory recall is the opposite of anxiety. She's had anxiety. She has a notebook like I have, which maybe I need to get rid of. I use Otter now that have been taught by Shoni, but I still take hand notes to when I'm at a meeting or at a training, so I can think and write down the most important thing to me, and then I record it with Otter so I can go back and actually see all the details. But my mom is having this memory recall issue, and he says that is linked to it obviously causes anxiety, and we don't lose our memory because of age. We lose it because we stop learning. And as we learn, we're able to recall things. If you sit in a client meeting and you've studied and you've role played about commission and what you're going to do, if this, then this, you're prepared, right? You've learned, so we go in with confidence. So he also talks about that creating that flow state. As we learn more, the more we learn, and the more that we're in this state, the more that we are able to feel comfortable, confident, relaxed, genuine, authentic. Are those things that you want to be in a listing appointment? You want to be authentic, right? That's going to attract the people that are going to be the best clients for you. And it also builds sustainable performance. One of the worst things about living in fear, and somebody asked him about, he talked about aggression. Well, what about a basketball player? Don't they need to be aggressive? What about a fighter? Don't they need to be aggressive? Yes, at times, right? They can be really aggressive at times, but he talks about how assertiveness is more important than aggression, that aggression leads to burnout. And as salespeople, consultants, we can burn out pretty quickly if we're just like feeling like we just have to be aggressive. As we're learning based and as we continue learning, then we can be assertive because we're confident and we understand what's going to help our client best. Thoughts or questions on this part? I'm going to have to go through. I knew this slide would take the longest, but I'll go through a little quicker. Well, I don't know if it's possible to reverse gray matter, but he did say it's possible to reverse losing your memory. And they do that through learning and study and memory recall. But people as they age, a lot of people, and it's on some coming slides, they just kind of know what they know, right? They don't necessarily want to change. Sometimes we get like that as agents. We know what we know. And if we're not, learning, right now, AI is a big thing. Shoni taught one of the most phenomenal classes. If you haven't taken it, you can still take it. But it was phenomenal. It changed. I've never done PowerPoint slides, by the way, never. And so I put down the notes and then put them into ChatGPT and then Claude and thought, okay, now upload them to Gamma, and then it popped out the slides, right? I don't actually know how to do the slides. But yeah, and thank you. And that's thanks to Shoni and teaching us about AI. And actually, I don't know, all the electronic stuff. I haven't been great at Excel, and that's something so important to learn. So I've been studying that and watching little videos. And anyway, and I was so nervous about AI, so I thought I'm going to read all I can. I'm going to take Shoni's class. I'm going to dive into this, and it seriously has helped a ton. Now, and I hope it's okay to give this example. Shoni gave an example where he took his phone out at a client consultation. And he put on Otter AI. It's just an app, and I do the paid version now because of this. And I left it to record. I left it to record. And after the meeting, so this client was buying and going to sell, and they were all over the board. And so I tried to kind of keep it a little systematic and understand their motivations and what they really wanted. And as I got back, I was able to upload that and then organize it and then send them an email. Upload it to ChatGPT. I think I used Claude for that one. Anyway, and then send him an email, and it was like, hey, here's our action items. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what I'm going to do. Here are our dates. And I would not have been able to memorize that just taking notes on, my piece of paper. So anyway, really, real cool stuff to learn. But we've got to make learning our default state. And it's one of the reasons that I decided to jump in on the ALC again. Being on the ALC takes time, but I did ask who else was going to be on it. And I thought, oh my goodness, with all these other rock stars, I'm going to learn a ton. And I'll be able to help and serve a little bit too. But my biggest motivation was to continue learning from all these other great agents. And if we approach with curiosity, whether it's learning with our clients, imagine somebody being aggressive with you, another agent. Imagine instead of being aggressive back, saying, what's making you feel this way, or what, asking questions and being really curious rather than reacting. When we get in that reactive state, we're experiencing fear, which takes away the ability to learn. So, here's an action that Dr. Manning gave that I started doing. Actually, now I've been writing my journal every day. I've only missed a couple of times over the last 3 months, and I've never been a journaler. I just haven't. And actually, it wasn't Dr. Manning that got me journaling. My son did. My 14-year-old, he journals every night. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I'd sneak in and read and see if there's anything we could help with in his life. But I started to journal every day, and I leave it there where my kids can see it. I leave it where my wife can see it. I don't have anything to hide. And when we're living truth, we don't have anything to hide. But his action plan, which I would challenge you guys to do, is each day, and this will help change your mental state, write 3 things that you did well. The more specific you are, the better, because you'll understand what you're really good at, what you're doing well. And he encouraged you to write 1 thing that you could do better. See, we have this tendency to focus on one moment in time. Think of an athlete that comes off. How do you think the player felt last night? Anybody watch the national championship? How do you think that poor guy from Houston felt that jumped up, was going to pass the ball, was going to shoot? He got caught, couldn't think, so he let the ball go, which was good, so he didn't travel. But he got caught up in that moment. How do you think he feels about his season? How do you think he feels about that play? He is beating himself to death. As a former athlete, guarantee that's what he's doing. And he's judging himself off that one moment in time. Do we do that as agents? Yeah, have you ever lost a listing appointment to another agent and felt that maybe if you had studied a little more, maybe you were just a little more prepared, you would have gotten the listing? We beat ourselves up for that one moment in time. And so what this will help us do is realize where we need to fill in that gap. If we're thinking of these 3 things, that'll change our state of our mind, and it'll get us focusing actually on what we're good at. We'll do more of what we're good at. We'll realize maybe that one thing each day that we can improve on, but it's not bashing ourselves. It's not putting ourselves down. Oh man, I'm terrible at real estate. Oh man, I'm a bad husband. It's looking at reality and the truth for what it really is. And I think Shoni's mentioned that before, that sometimes things just are. They're not good or bad, they just are, and we have to understand where we are. And one of the ways to improve is this honest assessment. I just mentioned that, and then we've got to be able to track it. Keller Williams is big on the GPS, the 411. How many of you have a GPS and do it, or have at least written it down before? Oh, good. We got a lot of folks that can take that step. That's awesome. So if you haven't, writing down that GPS is going to be an incredible help for you. It'll help guide you, and then it'll help you take measurements on what matters most. And then we take action based on those measurements. How many of you have been to a class and not applied a single thing that you've learned? I'll raise my hand high, because that's me in several classes. How much good does that do us? So the key is not just to be learning based, but to create an action plan. That's why you'll hear in some of these trainings, now take away one thing that you can do a little better. Take away one thing from what you heard today that you can implement that will help you be a better person, a better agent. When we're with clients, we want to focus on solutions. If we focus on the problem too, yeah, you're right, this agent is tough. I don't know why they didn't accept our offer. He's really kind of being horrible to work with. We're not really helping our clients, are we? Even if it's the truth. The other agent may be tough to work with, but if we focus on, hey, I wonder if, we're curious about how they feel, we wonder like what, maybe what we need to change, then we can identify what's going on. We can create solutions and then present them to our clients, and then we can implement them. Kammon made this look so good. So how do we do that if we're in an emotional state? If we are acting on our emotions, see what time it is here. Almost timed in. If we're being reactive and acting on our emotions, then we lose control. So if you feel yourself heart beating, breathing heavily, your palms are sweaty, you're in that state of fight or flight. And I like to take a deep breath. Sometimes I'll even step away for a moment. And gratitude is another huge help that he said to help you get out of that state. Think of things you're grateful for. So if we can be aware and then assess what's going on, am I in control? Is this emotion controlling me? Then we can adjust from that fear to a learning mode. And then we can engage from that regulated state where you're in charge and not your emotions. So he also mentions that, and I thought was fascinating, that what makes you interesting is what makes you you. I'll talk about this authenticity part. The truth The truth makes you interesting and authentic. That's what people want to know. You don't have to come up with some crazy thing because you're competing, which, by the way, he warned us that he was going to use the F word in this, and that was competition, competing, not competition, comparison. Don't compare yourselves to the other. Think of that as an F word. You can compare yourself to yourself and think of ways that you can improve, but you don't have to always compare to other agents, worry about what they're doing. Do what you do best. And that'll create positive energy. This will come out in the slides, so I won't take time to go over these, but those are some questions that you can ask yourself. What's my state of mind? Am I emotionally regulated? And am I in a learning mindset? And am I diagnosing reality for what it really is versus just being down on myself? Or for that matter, maybe being too positive, thinking I'm really doing everything I can, but maybe I'm misdiagnosing the opposite direction. When we're not learning based, we stay in ignorance. Learning based, love this example. You can shoot through the ceiling because you're in a constant state of improvement. And I'll end with these 4 truths. He talks about 4 truths. And one way we have happiness or real happiness is through material objects, except those are temporary, right? You may want to buy that BMW. You may want to buy something. You may want to have something. Ego-bound achievement, happiness, maybe you were agent of the month. And that doesn't last. Then doing good is a great thing, but it's also temporary because every time you do something good, you have that dopamine hit, and then you need to do something again to feel it again. The true state of happiness, he explains, was transcendence, who you're becoming. And that's where real happiness is. It's stable, it's long lasting. And as you continue learning and as you continue coming to classes, figuring out ways to apply it, you'll be in that transcendent state because you're becoming who you know you should be. So I appreciate you guys, and you are where you should be right now. And I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate what I've been able to learn here at KW, and I'm excited to continue learning. Thanks.